The 44th session of the Senate in the second regular session of the 16th Congress is hereby called to order. Senator Cynthia A. Villar will lead the chamber in prayer. Senator Villar.
Let us put ourselves in the presence of the Lord. Dear Lord, you call us to be your humble servants and to serve the least of your brethren as a form of service to you. You also assured us that whatever we did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of ours, we did for you. Among them, Lord, are our poor countrymen. You even sent the Holy Father, His Holiness, Pope Francis, to our country to further enlighten us about service to the poor and dealing with poverty. Pope Francis told us that it means living lives that reflect the poverty of Christ, whose entire life was focused on doing the will of the Father and serving others. Indeed, through His grace, our Lord Jesus Christ, though He was rich, for our sake He became poor, so that we, through His poverty, might become rich. Lord, this 2015, which the Roman Catholic Church has declared as the Year of the Poor, please help us, your servants, to renew our commitment to think of the poor, feel with the poor, and serve the poor. As we do, as Pope Francis urged us, may we also learn how to beg, to learn how to receive with humility, and to be evangelized by those who help because they have so much to give to us. May we learn how to open our hand from our very own poverty. This we ask of you through your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. The Senate Choir will lead us in the singing of the Philippine National Anthem, after which the group will render a song entitled Kay Mangging Malaya. The Senate Choir. Thank you to our Senate choir for the rendition of that of the national anthem and the song entitled Kayo Mangging Malaya. The Secretary will now please call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan, Peter Compañero S, Cayetano Pia S, Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Strada, Gingona, Hunasan, Lapid, Legarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar, Senate President Rilon.
17 senators are present. The chair declares the presence of a quorum. The Majority Leader.
Good afternoon, Mr. President.
Good afternoon.
With the consent of the Senate, I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal of the 43rd session, January 21, 2015, and consider the same as approved.
Any objection? Hearing none, the reading of the journal of the previous session, January 21, 2015, is dispensed with, and the same is hereby approved.
Mr. President.
The acting minority leader is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. With the indulgence of the majority leader and members of the Senate, may I pose a parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President?
Please proceed,
And
Senator
I
Soto.
probably need the ruling of the Senate President. I overheard earlier through media reports that the Senate is ordering the arrest of Mayor Junjun Binay of Makati. I tried to find out what transpired and what happened, and I am in a quandary on how the procedure was done, Mr. President. So I find a conflict in the rules of the Blue Ribbon Committee and the rules of the Senate concerning meetings and concerning quorums in hearings and in aid of legislation. So may I find out from the Senate President how this can go about? Was there a meeting of the Blue Ribbon Committee, Mr. President, that transpired, and therefore effectively the arrest order can be executed, Mr. President?
The President has no personal knowledge of the occurrence of the meeting and will therefore refer this question of fact to the Majority Leader.
Mr. President, with the permission of the Minority Leader, the Blue Ribbon Committee has in fact had a meeting scheduled at 1 o'clock today, and it was held a little bit after 1 o'clock, and they have declared in contempt Mayor Junjun Binay and 6 other individuals. Mr. President, reference was made to Section 18, found on page 68 of the handbook, the rules of the Senate, this brown book being given to us, and in section, sorry, Mr. President, resolution number 5, rules of procedure governing inquiries in aid of legislation. Section 18, the chairman, with the concurrence of at least one member of the committee, may punish or cite in contempt any witness before the committee who disobeys any order of the committee or refuses to be sworn or to testify or to answer a proper question by the committee or any of its members, or testifies falsely or evasively, or who unduly refuses to appear or bring before the committee certain documents and or object evidence required by the committee, notwithstanding the issuance of appropriate subpoena therefore. A majority of all the members of the committee may, however, reverse or modify the aforesaid order of contempt within 7 days. A contempt of the committee shall be deemed a contempt of the Senate. Such witness may be ordered by the committee to be detained in such place as may be designated under the custody of the Sergeant at Arms until he or she agrees to produce the required documents or to be sworn or to testify or otherwise purge himself or herself of that contempt. Letter B, a report of the detention of any person for contempt shall be submitted by the Sergeant of Arms to the committee and Senate. There's a footnote under page 68, Mr. President, as amended by resolution number 145, adopted February 6, 2013, and published February 18, 2013, published on the issue of Manila Bulletin, page 8, and the Daily Tribune, page 8. This may be the source of confusion, Mr. President, because in the old rules, there was a different procedure, but under the new rules, the chairman, with the concurrence of one member, may punish or cite in contempt. And given that Mayor Junjun promised that his department's heads will be attending, and then whenever he's needed, he will attend. But after the first hearing, his department heads came a few times and then refused to come. And the same for the mayor, despite notices. I was informed that the Blue Ribbon Committee decided to hold a meeting today and to decide whether they will be held in contempt. And all of those in the list submitted by Subcommittee Chairman Pimentel were held in contempt, except for Mr. Tomas Lopez, who wrote the committee to inform them that he will in fact attend on Thursday.
Mr. President, well, at the outset, allow me to place it on record. I have no issue on whether he should be cited for contempt or arrested or not. I have not attended the hearings, except for the first one. No, it does not conform to my perspective. That's why I did not attend anymore. No, Mr. President, it's up to the committee, really. But when we say the committee, it should be the model committee. And therefore, my problem is how this meeting was done. The meeting, the majority leader said there was a meeting after 1 o'clock today. And how many were present? Was there a quorum of the committee? A quorum of 2 is in the rules. This is to my understanding, Mr. President, is in aid of legislation, hearings to transact business. Now, to cite for contempt or arrest a resource person. Also, I have no problem with that, except that this is a very controversial issue. So the undertaking is very controversial. We might be cited here for something else. So I want to make sure that the rules are followed. Now, my understanding of the last sentence of the first paragraph of Section 18 on contempt, when you say a majority of all the members of the committee may, however, reverse or modify the aforesaid order of contempt within 7 days. Ang intindi ko dyan, Mr. President, ibig sabihin, nag-meeting yung committee at yung at least dalawa sa members ng committee gustong i-cite for contempt a particular person. Yes, if the members of the committee did not say anything or are not against it. And that is the reason that importanteng may quorum yung Blue Ribbon Committee pag meeting nila to contempt a person. Remember, we did that during the last Congress when Senator Pangilinan was asking for a contempt. We went into caucus and convened the caucus into a Blue Ribbon Committee hearing so that majority of the 17 members will be there. In this case, I don't know who attended the meeting earlier at 1 o'clock. So that is my problem, and that is the conflict as far as I'm concerned, Mr. President. That's point number one.
Mr. President, the information given this representation is that there were some members who were, more members who were willing to attend the hearing, but there being a quorum, because aside from the chairman, 2 other regular members attended. The chairman made a ruling that there is in fact a quorum, and that Section 18 on contempt prevails. Precisely this amendment was made because of the problems in the past wherein we needed a majority, and it is very seldom that we do get 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 senators in one committee hearing. But my understanding, Mr. President, is that the rules was followed as far as the mother committee hearing today. Notices were given to all its members and ex-officio members. In fact, it was announced in the media last week. The 3-day rule was followed. So for all intents and purposes, the rules was followed by the chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee. He is, however, not in the session hall, so he will have personal knowledge of the discussions because I was not there. But to my reading of the rules, Mr. President, the chairman, in fact, followed the rules, especially Section 18 in holding person in contempt. And if we go back to the discussion on the floor, why this amendment was made is precisely to answer the problem of having to ask a number of senators to attend the hearing when we want to have someone declared in contempt, Mr. President. So I do believe that if this is questioned in court, that the Blue Ribbon Committee will be on good legal standing, Mr. President.
Well, I cannot agree fully with that, Mr. President, because as you said, they were willing to attend, but they did not attend. It was a Blue Ribbon Committee meeting. At least 9 members should have been there, Mr. President. As a matter of fact, magiging preemptive ito, ang mangyayari dito, let's say, they execute a contempt order and order the arrest. Meron tayong 7-day rule. Kung tomorrow meron lumabas na resolution or letter from 9 members of the committee saying that they do not want to agree with the contempt order. Kaya importante may meeting. Kaya importante na yung Blue Ribbon Committee nag-meet yung na may quorum. And very clear, ang rules of the Senate, Rule 11, meetings and reports of the committee, Section 22, 1/3 of all the regular members of the committee shall constitute a quorum, but in no case shall be less than 2. The presence of ex officio members may be considered in determining the existence of a quorum. However, the committee may authorize a fewer number of members to conduct public hearings on bills pending before it or gather facts in aid of legislation. Section 2 naman ng Blue Ribbon internal rules, nila yun eh. Yun ang isa sa mga nakikita kong conflict. Sa internal rules, 2 lang. Pero hearings in aid of legislation, this is a different undertaking. Kaya nga when you say a meeting should have a quorum. That is my question now to the Senate President. So what do we do about this, Mr. President? Isn't this all internal rules, as I understand it, Mr. President, are subject to the governing rules of the Senate? Kaya po yun ang tinatanong ko. I don't care about the personalities, Mr. President. I want to place it on record. As a matter of fact, I will not even participate probably. I'm just citing the rules, and we just want to make sure that we are on the right path here, and we will not be questioned later
in
on.
view of this provision cited by the Minority Leader, the Chair directs the Rules Committee to respond to this and resolve the questions being raised formally on the floor by the Minority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President, and the Minority Leader is a member of the Committee on Rules, so we will give him the notice so that we will be able to thresh this out, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, Senator Escudero is recognized.
Yes, Mr. President. Just adding to the point raised by the acting minority floor leader. On the assumption that the meeting was valid with the attendance of only 1 member and there was a quorum in the committee hearing, does the committee have to wait for 7 days, the amount of time within which a majority can muster the needed signatures to reverse, or can they implement it immediately and just simply risk being reversed by a majority of the committee, or would prudence dictate that they wait for the lapse of 7 days before such an order is implemented? To add to the inquiries of the distinguished acting minority floor
That
leader.
question should likewise be addressed by the Committee on Rules.
Accepted,
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Secretary will read the reference of business. But may the Chair request that we avail of the presence of our colleagues and act on a measure on 3rd reading, which is in our agenda, before we do the reference of business, if that is...
I withdraw my motion, Mr. President. Mr. President, with consent of the Senate, I move that we consider on third reading, House Bill number 3917 under Committee Report number 72. This is the legislative bill on the proposed lone legislative district of the City of Biñan.
The motion is in order and carried.
With the consent of the body, may we request the Secretary to read only the title of the bill without prejudice to inserting into the Senate Journal and the record the whole text thereof.
Secretary will do so.
House Bill number 3917 under Committee Report number 72. An act separating the City of Biñan from the first legislative district of the province of Laguna to constitute the lone legislative district of the City of Biñan.
Mr. President, copies of this measure as approved on second reading has been distributed to the members of the Senate last January 22, 2015, thereby complying with the 3-day rule found under Section 26, Paragraph 2 of Article 6 of the 1987 Constitution. We are thus ready to approve the measure on third reading. I ask for a roll call vote.
The Secretary will conduct the roll call vote.
Roll call vote. The Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, Cayetano Alan, Peter Compañero S., Cayetano Pia S., Defensor Santiago, Ejercito, Enrile, Escudero, Estrada, Gingona, Hunasan, Lapid, Ligarda, Marcos, Usmeña, Pimentel, Po, Recto, Revilla, Soto, Trillanes, Villar. Senate President Trilon.
Mr. President,
Senator Soto?
it grieves my heart to register an abstention, Mr. President.
All right. Is abstention ba? Okay. There are 15 affirmative votes, no negative votes, 1 abstention cast by the acting minority leader. House Bill 3917 is approved on third reading.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Secretary will read the reference of business.
Bills on first reading. Senate number 2578, entitled An Act Penalizing the Illicit Enrichment of Public Officials and Employees for Acquisition of Properties Through Unlawful Means, by Senator Grace Poe.
Justice and Human Rights, Accountability of Public Officers, and Investigation.
Senate number 2579, an act instituting inclusive education and the establishment of inclusive education learning resource centers for children and youth with special needs in all public schools divisions, providing for standards and guidelines and appropriating funds therefore, by Senator Sani Angara.
Education, Arts and Culture, Youth, Ways and Means, Finance.
Senate number 2580, an act protecting and strengthening the indigenous community conserved areas, recognizing their contribution to biodiversity conservation, establishing for the purpose the National ICCA Registry, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes, Senator Ligarda.
Committees on Cultural Communities and Finance.
Senate number 2583, an act providing for a comprehensive nursing law towards quality healthcare system, repealing for this purpose RA 9173, otherwise known as the Philippine Nursing Act of 2002, and appropriating funds therefore, Senator Gingona III.
Health and Demography, Education, Arts and Culture, Finance.
Resolutions, PS Resolution number 1116, congratulating and commending the recipients of the Outstanding Young Men, TOYM, of the Philippines 2014 award honored by the Junior Chamber International, Philippines Inc., Toym Foundation Inc., and Jerry Rojas Foundation Inc. by Senator Lapid.
Committee on Rules.
PS Resolution number 1117, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reported grenade explosion at the Northern Police District in Caloocan City by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Public Order, Dangerous Drugs.
PS Resolution number 1118, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report that garlic cartel fabricated the onion racket by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Agriculture and Food, Trade, Commerce and Entrepreneurship.
PS Resolution number 1119, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report of troops being tricked to free boat in smuggling by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Committees on Trade, Commerce and Entrepreneurship and Economic. I'm sorry.
PS Resolution number 1120.
Economic Affairs.
Resolution directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation, the recent Commission on Audit report that the Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration has no adequate early warning system for storm surge by Senator Defensor Santiago.
Science and Technology, Finance.
Yes, Resolution number 1121, directing the proper Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the report of leakage of nursing licensure examination questions by a former Board of Nursing of the Professional Regulation Commission, Senator Defensor Santiago.
Civil Service and Government Reorganization.
Yes, Resolution number 1122, directing the proper Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the alleged failure of Metro Manila Development Authority, MMDA, to properly account for the calamity fund, Senator Defensor Santiago.
Accountability of Public Officers and Investigation.
Yes, Resolution number 1123, directing the Senate Committee on Environment and Natural Resources and other appropriate Senate committees to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reports that air pollution in the National Capital Region during the New Year revelry is 13 times past the safe standards by Senator Lapid.
Environment and Natural Resources.
Yes, Resolution number 1124, commending Department of Interior and Local Government Secretary Mar Rojas, Department of National Defense Secretary Voltaire Gasmin, Philippine National Police Officer in Charge, Deputy Director General Leonardo Espina, Armed Forces of the Philippines, Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Gregorio Pio Katapang Jr., MMDA Authority Chairman Francis Tolentino, and the respective departments and agencies for the success of the first state and pastoral visit to the Philippines of His Holiness Pope Francis on January 15 to 19, 2015 by Senator Lapid.
Committee on Rules.
1125, commending the Vatican City, Holy See, and the Catholic Bishop Conference of the Philippines for uplifting the spirit of and strengthening the Catholic faith of the Filipino people, Senator Joseph Victor Ejercito.
Rules.
Yes, Resolution number 1126, commending the PNP, AFP, MMDA, PSG, DPWH, CBCP, DILG, City of Manila, City of Pasay, City of Tacloban, and Palo, Leyte, Philippine Red Cross, and other organizers for providing security, ensuring public safety, and maintaining peace and order during Pope Francis Apostolic and State Visit to the Philippines, Senator Joseph Victoria Ejercito.
Rules.
Communications from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, submitting to the Senate a copy of the report on economic and financial developments in the Philippines third quarter 2014 pursuant to Section 39, Chapter 1, Article 5 of the new Central Bank Act.
Omit banks, financial institutions, and currencies.
Letters from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, transmitting to the Senate copies of the following BSP issuances in compliance with the new Central Bank Act. Memorandum numbers M 2014-45, 46, 47, 48, Circular number CL 2014-66, and Circular number 862 dated 17 December 2014.
Banks, financial institutions, and currencies.
Committee reports. Committee report number 95, prepared and submitted jointly by the Committees on Civil Service and Government Organization and Finance on Senate number 2581 with Senators Trillanes IV, Cynthia A. Villar, and Escuderos, authors thereof, entitled an act mandating and strengthening the continuing professional development program for all regulated professions, creating continuing professional development council, and appropriating funds therefore and for other related purposes, recommending its approval in substitution of Senate number 1005, sponsor Senators Trillanes IV and Escudero.
Calendar for ordinary business.
Committee report number 96, prepared and submitted jointly by the Committees on Civil Service and Government Reorganization and Finance on Senate number 2582 with Senators Trillanes IV, Cynthia A. Villar, Escuderos, authors thereof, entitled an act regulating the practice of nutrition and dietetics in the Philippines, repealing for the purpose Presidential Decree number 1286 known as the Nutrition and Dietetics Decree of 1977, appropriating funds therefore and for other related purposes, recommending its approval in substitution of Senate number 2356, sponsor Senators Trillanes IV and Escudero.
Calendar for ordinary business. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we recognize Senator Aquino to deliver a speech on public interest.
Senator Aquino is recognized.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, mga kaibigan, mga kababayan, I rise today on a matter of personal and collective privilege with an inspired spirit and renewed energy to build a better Philippines hand in hand with every Filipino. It's been 1 week since His Holiness Pope Francis left our humble shores after spending 5 blessed days in our country. And during this time, Pope Francis captivated the nation and inspired the people with his charming smile, gestures of gratitude, humility, and empathy. Mr. President, thousands of Filipinos lined this path, with some going to great lengths and enormous sacrifices just to simply catch a glimpse of the Holy Father. Libo-libong mga pamilyang Pilipino ang naghintay ng ilang oras upang makilahok sa mga events ni Pope Francis. Kabilang na po riyan si Mang Antolin Adlawan. Sa kabila ng kanyang edad na 66 na taon, ay naglakad siya ng 36 na araw patungong Tacloban para lang makadalo sa misa ng Santo Papa. Sa misa po sa Luneta, 6 na milyong Pilipino ang dumalo sa gitna ng malakas na ulan, sama-samang nakinig sa mensahe ng Santo Papa at nagdasal para sa ating mga pamilya at sa ating buong bayan. Undeniably, Pope Francis has given many of us the precious gift of inspiration through his words and his being. The challenge for us now is to turn Pope Francis' message into action and make his calls into reality that will benefit our countrymen, especially the poor and the marginalized. Mr. President, I'd like to highlight 3 themes from his life and advocacy that we can emulate and translate in our own lives and to our own work as well. And these are a life of simplicity, a heart for inclusiveness, and a renewed vigor to ensure the dignity of the poor. Kilala po si Jorge Mario Bergoglio sa kanyang simpleng pamumuhay kahit nung siya pa ay arsobispo ng Buenos Aires sa Argentina. Sumasakay lang po siya ng bus at di gumagamit ng mamahaling sasakyan sa pang-araw-araw. Nakatira siya sa isang maliit na apartment na pwede namang mas magarbo ang kanyang tahanan dahil siya po ay isang arsobispo. Nang mahirang bilang Santo Papa, pinili po niya ang pangalang Francis bilang pagbibigay-pugay kay Saint Francis of Assisi na santo ng mahihirap at nangangailangan. When Pope Francis addressed the Roman Curia last December, he talked about a disease of hoarding and even said, accumulating goods only burdens and inexorably slows down the journey. His call for a simple and plain lifestyle is indeed an example for all of us to look at our own lives and appreciate the things and the blessings that we already have. But the challenge for us, public servants and leaders, is to uphold the public interest over and above personal interest, to lead modest lives appropriate to our positions, not to indulge in extravagant or ostentatious displays of wealth in any form. These phrases, of course, are familiar because they're from RA 6713. President Aquino's leadership emphasized the eradication of the wang-wang culture, the image of blaring, and I quote, the image of blaring much-abused sirens to symbolize all things corrupt and crooked in Philippine politics, end quote. But this call for simplicity is not for simplicity's sake. Rather, it's a challenge for us leaders not to separate from those that we serve. The call for simplicity must go beyond the superficial and the symbolic. It's a mindset which roots leaders with the people that they serve. It's a constant reminder for empathy, to feel what most people feel, so that the decisions that we make will always be for the many and not just the few. Secondly, dear colleagues, the Pope calls us to be inclusive and, as he instructed his cardinals last year, to fight any discrimination. Mr. President, during Maundy Thursday of last year, Pope Francis broke tradition when he washed and kissed the feet of 12 persons with disability for the washing of the feet ritual. Several of these were women and another man was a Muslim. Pope Francis reminds us that we live in a world that is as diverse as it is magnificent, and that though Filipinos have differing beliefs and varying perspectives, we are united by our dream to build this country. Kung naalala pa po ninyo, ang sinabi niya sa kabataang Pilipino sa UST, sabi po niya, women have much to tell us in today's society, at hinikayat na mas maraming kababaihan pa ang makilahok sa mga events niya. Sa mata po ng Santo Papa, maging ano pa ang iyong kasarian, relihiyon at estado sa buhay, dapat pantay ang pagtrato at may boses sa lipunan ang lahat. Our colonial past and rich history, where our Malay roots have been mixed with Chinese, Spanish, American, and even Indian and Mediterranean descent, have made our culture into a melting pot of diverse ways, values, and norms. And the fact that 1/10 of Pinoys are living and working abroad we Filipinos are a truly global, genuinely accepting and accommodating people. Thus, we call on all Filipinos today to go back to who we really are and further create a kinder and gentler nation, a more forgiving and compassionate people that care for each and every Filipino, regardless of our ethnicity, race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, civil status, age, or even medical condition. And lastly, Mr. President, the Holy Father emphasized his call to be at the forefront of eradicating poverty, to be at the peripheries, to be at the margins of development. He has challenged us to re-examine our Christian faith and our lifestyle. Even before he was Pope, he pushed for jobs and enterprises with his work in the slums of Argentina. Buenos Aires, there are two sides of Buenos Aires. One, which is a far cry from the beauty that we see in the movies. There are city slums, known as villas of misery, and sometimes ambulances and police cars even refuse to enter, according to an article about the area. Among the Pope's parishioners were the unemployed and the hungry. Teenage pregnancies were rampant, while drug users and criminals roamed the villas openly. As Archbishop of Buenos Aires in 1998, Padre Bergoglio then worked to revive and invigorate the Catholic movement in the villas. From a few priests, he doubled the number of priests in the areas, and his parishes started programs to rehabilitate and uplift the poor of Buenos Aires. They built a recovery center for drug addicts, a high school, a technical vocational school, farms where drug addicts worked and lived, a home for the elderly and children, and even a community radio and newspaper to give the people in the margins a voice. One of the Jesuit charisms is to go where there is the greatest need, to be at the forefront, at the frontiers of development, and to be with the most vulnerable and the suffering. This is the call that we must heed. Helping our countrymen means going beyond the common understanding of charity. It is restoring the dignity of the poor and providing the opportunity of earning for yourself and for your family. Mr. President, in solidarity with the Pope's call to build a church of the poor and for the poor, we must ensure that our government is a government completely and utterly focused on fighting poverty and providing opportunities for our countrymen. We need to ensure that as we establish the K-12 system in our basic education, our young Filipinos will have the right knowledge, skills, and attitudes that will make them competitive in the job market, not only in the country, but in the ASEAN region and the world as well. It's our fervent hope that the families under the 4Ps program will graduate from just being beneficiaries, and that the Sustainable Livelihood Program will be given more emphasis as our countrymen strive to overcome poverty. Let's help in organizing our farmers and fisherfolk, provide the right technical assistance and access to capital, link them to proper markets, and help them break free from the cycle of poverty. In addition, we must also support institutions that help our communities, our poor communities, get out of poverty. Microfinance organizations, cooperatives, social enterprises, and inclusive businesses. The call is to make our dream for our people to be able to stand on their own feet, provide food for their families, send their children to school, and build lasting homes, a true reality for every Filipino. Now, the Pope's visit to the Philippines can remain a record-breaking event, a fond memory that we cast to history, or we can turn it into something even more substantial. All of us together have the power to make this papal visit a major turning point for our country. As we bid farewell to our cherished Pope Francis, let us reflect on how each of us can personally contribute to improving the lives of our fellow Filipinos. Each of us has a role to play. Each of us has the opportunity to make a difference. Each of us can be that agent of change. Now we have been blessed with both the instruction and the inspiration to do so. Concrete action and palpable change are the greatest gifts we can give Pope Francis. Let's make him proud at bigyan po natin siya ng panibagong dahilan upang bumalik sa ating bansa. Maraming salamat, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Aquino, the Majority Leader.
Yes, for a minute suspension, Mr. President.
1 minute suspension. So, anong gagawin natin?
Ready ka?
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, may we recognize Senator Trillanes to make a manifestation.
Senator Trillanes is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are in receipt of a communication dated 29 October 2014 from the House of Representatives informing that the Senate on 29 October 2014 that the House approved on third reading House Bill number 5016, to which it requests that the concurrence of the Senate. HB 5016, otherwise known as the Chemistry Profession Act, is actually the counterpart of Senate Bill 914, which this chamber approved on third reading on 15 September 2014. After going over the provisions of House Bill 5016 and discussions on the matter with concerned stakeholders, I move as chair of the Committee on Civil Service and Government Organization that the Senate adopt House Bill 5016 as an amendment to Senate Bill 914 consistent with Section 35 of our rules. I so move, Mr. President.
What does the majority leader say to the motion of Senator Trillanes?
If there are no objections from the body, Mr. President, a minute suspension, Mr. President.
Suspended for 1 minute.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session resumed.
Mr. President, in order to clarify, the difference of the two bills, may we recognize the minority leader to ask some clarificatory questions.
The minority leader is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the distinguished gentleman yield to one or two questions, Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, because I distinctly remember the two of us discussed this bill, and I'd like to know the difference of the House version and us, so that we are now constrained to accept the House version, Mr. President. Was there a big difference, or is there a something different from the House version from ours, or just technicalities, Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. President. I assure the minority leader that the difference is quite technical and very minor. It did not in any way affect the essence and the spirit of the Senate bill or the Senate version, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's all. In that case, I have no objection to the motion, Mr. President.
Mr. President, if there are no other clarificatory questions and there are no objections from the body, then I second the motion, and there's no objection from us adopting, Mr. President, the House version.
So the motion is for this chamber to concur with the House version, which is before the chamber. And there being no objection, the motion of Senator Trillanes, seconded by the majority leader, without any objection, is hereby approved.
Mr. President, on another matter, we are likewise in receipt of a communication dated 15 December 2014 from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 15 December 2014, the House approved on third reading House Joint Resolution number 26, to which it requests the concurrence of the Senate. House Joint Resolution 26 seeks to increase the daily subsistence allowance of the personnel of the AFP, PNP, BFP, BJMP, PCG, and NAMRIA, and is the counterpart of Senate Joint Resolution Number 2, which this chamber approved on third reading on 18 August 2014. After going over the provisions of the House measure and discussions on the matter with concerned stakeholders, I would like to move, as chair of the Committee on National Defense and Security, that the Senate adopt House Joint Resolution 26 as an amendment to Senate Joint Resolution Number 2, consistent with Section 35 of our rules. I so move, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
With the permission of the body, Mr. President, I second the motion.
There is a motion on the part of Senator Trillanes that the Senate adopts the House version of proposed joint resolution on the subsistence allowance of the armed forces of the Philippines, and the same being proper in accordance with the rules, the same is hereby approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, may I ask that we again recognize Senator Trillanes, this time to speak on a matter of public interest.
Senator Trillanes is recognized on a question of public interest.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today on a matter of personal and collective privilege. In 2013, this representation sponsored PS Resolution 99 recognizing Grandmaster Wesley So for bringing honor and distinction to the country by winning the gold medal in the men's chess competitions in the 27th Summer Universiad in Kazan. He is the first Filipino to have won a gold medal in any sport in the last 54 years in the said competition. It was not the first time that Wesley So brought honor to our country. He won a number of high-caliber international competitions and has outwitted other world champions in said competitions, which made him one of the youngest grandmasters in the world and the youngest Filipino grandmaster at the age of 14. In 2007, he won the National Junior Championship and the World Junior Championship. So, likewise, secured the only chess gold medal for the Philippines in the 2011 SEA Games in Indonesia. In 2013, Las Vegas International Chess Festival, So won the U.S. Championship, National Open Championship, National Open Blitz Championship. He is the first chess player to accomplish such feat since the tournament began in 1965. It is said in chess circles that Grandmaster So has the potential of becoming a world champion. He is truly the pride of Philippine chess. Unfortunately, the Philippines lost this hope of having its first Filipino world champion. Last October of 2014, Grandmaster So officially transferred his chess affiliation to the United States of America. This decision to transfer affiliation was brought by confluence of factors that have been affecting his plan to pursue a serious career in chess. The lack of serious training system in the Philippines and the difficulty of flying to the Philippines to compete, which conflicts with his studies in the United States, were cited as primary reasons that pushed Grandmaster So to switch federations from the National Chess Federation of the Philippines to the United States Chess Federation. These reasons were aggravated by the ongoing political tussle between sports groups in the country, which has long been dragging and has been seriously affecting sports development in the country. Needless to state, Grandmaster So was apparently dismayed when the NCFP failed to recognize his feat at the Universiad, a competition which is recognized by the World Chess Federation and International Olympic Committee, despite winning the first ever gold medal for the Philippines. Instead, he was caught in the middle of a conflict between our sports officials. In 2013, through a letter to NCFP President Prospero Pichay, Grandmaster So formally requested his transfer to the USCF. However, instead of seeking out Grandmaster So and trying to iron out and resolve things with him and persuade him to continue playing for the country, our sports officials, including NCFP, sat on the letter and bungled the opportunity to prevail upon Grandmaster So to reconsider his decision. Worse, they sat on his request and failed to act on the matter promptly. Both NCFP President and PSC Chairman and the PSC Chairman denied the responsibility for alleged attempts to hinder the said request, with the NCFP President Pichay stating that he cannot release Grandmaster So. Otherwise, PSC Chairman Ricardo Garcia will consequently cut off $500,000 in funding to the NCFP. On the other hand, PSC Chairman Garcia denied that the said budget cut, but nonetheless suspended the benefits, including the 40,000 monthly allowance and financial support Grandmaster So received under the Philippine government's priority athletes program after he wrote to the NCFP. Due to the foot dragging of our sports officials, Grandmaster So missed several big international chess events. In June 2014, he was not able to join the U.S. National Open and failed to defend his crown at the said competition because of distractions caused by the issue. It was only in October 2014 that Philippine chess officials ultimately allowed his transfer due to technicalities in the FIDE rules on transfer of players without consent. Grandmaster So is a national treasure in the field of chess, which we lost. After his transfer, Grandmaster So was ranked 10th in the world in the November 2014 FIDE ratings and is considered the number 2 player in the United States. Furthermore, the U.S. country ranking in FIDE jumped from number 9 to number 4, while our country's rank slipped from number 32 to number 43 when GM So transferred to the United States. I think the latest ranking is he is now number 6 in the world and number 1 in the United States. Mr. President, there appears to be a grave mishandling by our own sports officials of the case of Grandmaster So and request to transfer federations. Furthermore, despite the fact that there is no shortage of talent, perseverance, dedication, and competitive spirit among Filipino athletes, Grandmaster So's aforementioned case is reminiscent of the very poor and dismal state of sports development in the country, particularly in providing high-level training to support our young talents. How many more promising athletes like Grandmaster So will our country have to lose due to poor leadership of the PSC and the mishandling of sports development in the country, aggravated by the politicking between and among sports organizations and officials in the country? Because of the foregoing, Mr. President, this representation has been prompted to file Senate Resolution 1086, which seeks to investigate the alleged mishandling of our country's sports officials of the request of Grandmaster Wesley So to switch federations from the NCFP to the USCF and to inquire into the dismal state of Philippine sports development. Certainly, we do not want the case of Grandmaster So to be repeated, Mr. President. I hope that through this proposed Senate investigation and ultimate passage of the corrective legislative measures resulting therefrom, this august chamber could do its part in helping our country recover and regain some of its former glory in the field of sports. Thank you, Mr. President.
So, okay, if you want a then we want first the Vice
Sport kasi amateur. Dalawang sport.
The Majority Leader.
Mr. President, Mr. President, may we refer the speech of the Honorable Senator Trillanes to the Committee on Games and Amusement.
So referred.
Mr. President, with the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider proposed Senate Resolution number 1111.
Consideration of proposed Senate Resolution number 1111 is in order.
May I request the Secretary to read the title and text of the said measure.
The Secretary will read the title of the measure.
PS Resolution number 1111, introduced by Senator Franklin M. Drilon. Resolution expressing the sense of the Senate in recognizing the enduring friendship and dynamic bilateral relations of the Republic of the Philippines with the Republic of Korea, and expressing gratitude to the Korean people and their government for their continuing contribution to the national development of the Philippines. Whereas the Republic of the Philippines and the Republic of Korea have enjoyed 65 years of warm and friendly relations based on a shared history of defending freedom and our common values of democracy, the rule of law, and respect for human rights. Whereas during the Korean War, the Philippines deployed over 7,000 Filipino soldiers who fought alongside with South Korean troops, with 120 of our brave soldiers sacrificing their lives. Whereas the Republic of Korea has become an important partner for the Philippines with regard to trade and investment, defense and security, science and technology, human capital development, development assistance, disaster risk reduction, and management. Whereas as a result of the productive discussions between His Excellency Benigno Simeon Aquino III, President of the Republic of the Philippines, and Her Excellency Park Geun-hye, President of the Republic of Korea, during the ASEAN Republic of Korea Commemorative Summit in Busan in December 2014, both countries pledged to increase cooperation in trade and investment, labor and migration, as well as more people-to-people exchanges. Whereas Korean investors continue to show confidence in the Philippines, making the Republic of Korea the fifth leading investor in the country, with investments amounting to more than 8.5 billion pesos in 2013 alone. Whereas the Republic of Korea has been the Philippines' top source of tourists since 2006, reaching 1.2 million arrivals in 2013. Whereas a large number of Filipinos and Koreans reside in its other countries, with 50,000 Filipinos in Korea and 100,000 Koreans living in the Philippines. Whereas the partnership of the Philippines and Republic of Korea have likewise contributed to the progressive development of international norms, particularly in upholding the primacy of the rule of law and the peaceful settlement of disputes. Whereas the Korean government and people provided immediate humanitarian assistance to areas affected by Typhoon Yolanda, Haiyan, in the form of cash donations, relief goods, and medicine worth US $5 million, and official development assistance, ODA, amounting to US $20 million for reconstruction and rehabilitation. Whereas the Korean government deployed for a year in Leyte a 500-strong humanitarian team known as the Republic of Korea Joint Support Group of Araw Contingent, which conducted medical operations and helped rehabilitate schools and hospitals affected by Typhoon Yolanda, Haiyan. Whereas the interparliamentary relations between the Korean National Assembly and the Senate of the Philippines has been strengthened by robust parliamentary exchanges and the existence of a Korea-Philippines Parliamentary Friendship Association and a Philippines-Korea Parliamentary Friendship Association. Now, therefore, be it resolved, as it is hereby resolved by the Senate of the Philippines, to recognize the enduring friendship and dynamic bilateral relations with the Philippines and Korea, and express gratitude to the Korean people and their government for the continuing contribution to the national development of the Philippines. Resolved finally that a copy of this resolution be furnished to the Embassy of the Republic of Korea in Manila and the Korean National Assembly in Seoul. Adopted, signed, Franklin M. Drilon, Senator.
The Majority Leader.
Mr. President, may I request that all senators present be made co-authors of said measure.
Any objection? Hearing none, all the senators present are made co-authors of the measure.
Mr. President, I move that we approve proposed Senate Resolution number 1111, subject to style.
Any objection? Hearing none, proposed Senate Resolution number 1111 is hereby adopted, subject to style.
Mr. President, may I ask for a minute suspension?
1 minute suspension.
Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, I move that we transfer House Bill number 5209 under Committee Report number 97 from the calendar for ordinary business to the calendar for special orders.
Any objection? Hearing none, House Bill 5209 is hereby transferred from the calendar for ordinary business to the calendar for special orders.
With the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider House Bill number 5209 under Committee Report number 97.
Can we have 1 minute suspension? I don't know.
So let's do the other one. Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Mr. President, upon consultation with the sponsor and author, we will be discussing today two measures, the postponement of the SK and also Youth Development and Empowerment Act, which is one of the reforms to the SK. May I move that, Mr. President, may I withdraw my motion to take up Senate House Bill number 5209 under Committee Report 97 for the moment.
The manifestation or motion of the majority leader is adopted.
With the consent of the Senate, Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 2401 under Committee Report number 75. This is the Youth Development and Empowerment Bill, Mr. President.
Approved.
Mr. President, the sponsor, Senator Marcos, had delivered his sponsorship speech on the measure last October 29, 2014. I thus move that we open the period of interpellation.
Period for interpellation is in order.
Mr. President, no senator has registered their intention to ask questions. This has been fully deliberated on the committee level, Mr. President. So I move that we close the period of interpellation.
The period for interpellation on Senate Bill 2401 under Committee Report number 75 is hereby terminated.
Mr. President, I move that we open the period for committee amendments.
The period for committee amendments is in order on Senate Bill number 2401.
May we recognize Senator Marcos, Mr. President.
Senator Marcos is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I propose these committee amendments for the SK Reform Bill, Senate Bill number 2401. Number 1, on page 4, line 13, delete the word and figure 24, and in lieu thereof, insert the word and figure 30. So moved, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
On page 5, line 1, delete subsection C. So moved, Mr. President.
Can we have it again, Mr. Senator?
The second amendment is on page 5, line 1, delete subsection C. So moved, Mr. President.
That's lines 1 to 3.
1 to 3, sir.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
On the same page, delete subsection B on lines 21 to 23. So moved, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
On page 8, line 20, delete the phrase 24 years of age on the day of the election, and in lieu thereof, insert the phrase 27 years of age at the time of the election. So moved.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
On the same page, line 23, after the word elected, delete the phrase national, local, and in lieu thereof, insert the phrase city, municipal. So moved, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
On the same page, line 24, after the word official, insert the phrase in the locality where he or she seeks to be elected. So moved, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
On the same page and line, delete the word fourth, and in lieu thereof, insert the word second. So moved, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
On page 9, line 4, delete the word and figure 24, and in lieu thereof, insert the word and figure 27. So moved, Mr. President.
27. Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
On page 13, line 14, after the word government, insert the phrase through the Department of Interior and Local Government, DILG. So moved, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
On page 15, line 17, delete the word either. So moved, Mr. President.
Page 15.
Line 17. On page 15, line 17, delete the word either. So moved, Mr. President.
Any appearing between the words office and by.
And by. Yes, Mr. President.
Approved.
On the same page, line 19, delete the punctuation mark, comma. So moved, Mr. President. On the same page, line 20, delete the phrase, or by majority vote of all the members of the Katipunan ng Kabataan, of which the concerned Sangguniang Kabataan official is a duly registered member. So moved, Mr. President.
Can the chair request that it be read again?
On the same page, line 20, delete the phrase, or by majority vote of all the members of the Katipunan ng Kabataan, of which the concerned Sangguniang Kabataan official is a duly registered member. To delete that entire phrase, Mr. President.
The remaining line on line 22 will remain.
That's right, Mr. President. Just this phrase.
Any objection? Hearing none.
On page 16, line 6, subsection D, delete the word deliberate. So moved, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Approved.
On the same page, line 8, after the word time, delete the punctuation semicolon, and in lieu thereof, insert the phrase without justifiable reason. So moved, Mr. President.
Without justifiable reason. This is on line 8, Mr. Senator. Is this on line 8?
Line 8, that is right, Mr. President. On page 16, line 8.
Yes, you do not have. Are you deleting the punctuation semicolon, or you insert the phrase without justifiable reason between time and the semicolon?
No, after the word time, we delete the punctuation mark semicolon and insert in lieu of the semicolon the phrase without justifiable reason.
Any objection? In none.
On the same page, line 9, subsection E.
Well, it is just a typographical error. We should retain the semicolon on line 8 after the word reasons as amended.
So okay, yeah, Mr. President. So it is to be moved rather than deleted.
Yes.
To after the word reason.
Yes. Okay, just for the record.
Agreed, Mr. President.
Okay, next amendment, please.
On the same page, line 9, the subsection E, delete the word deliberate.
All right. Any objection? Here approved.
On the same page, line 10, after the word program, delete the punctuation mark semicolon, and in lieu thereof, insert the phrase without justifiable reason. But perhaps I'll amend that to move the semicolon to after reason, as we did in the previous.
Can the chair have that amendment again, Mr. Senator?
Therefore, the amendment will now be on same page, line 10, after the word program.
Okay.
We delete the punctuation mark semicolon, and in lieu thereof, insert the phrase without justifiable reason semicolon.
Any objection? In approved.
On page 17, line 11, delete the phrase, a katipunan ng kabataan member who has reached the age of 25 years old at the time of the special election may be allowed to vote but shall not be eligible to be elected, and change the capital letter A into a small letter A in the word any. Page 11.
Can we have that again, Mr. Senator?
On line 11, starting from A, katipunan ng kabataan.
Yes.
We delete that phrase until the word elected on line 13.
Okay.
And the following letter A into a small letter A in the word any on line 13.
see, for this purpose, any, all right.
Any citizen. What is?
Okay, so the amendment is to delete on page 17, starting with line 11, from the word a katipunan ng katipunan ng kabataang member, etc.
Until
up to line 13.
eligible to be elected.
Eligible to be elected, period. And the capital A on word any is now a small letter, so that the sentence will now read, for this purpose, any citizen of the Philippines, etc., etc.
That's right, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none.
On page 20, line 17, delete the word and figure 24, and in lieu thereof, insert the word and figure 30. So moved, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing approved.
On page 21, line 7, subparagraph B1, delete the phrase official representatives, and in lieu thereof, insert the phrase president and vice president.
Any objection? Hearing approved.
On page 22, line 1, delete the following. For the purpose of representation, so it will be the entire paragraph until the word starting from for the purpose of representation until best practices and successful experiences to be deleted, and the T in the following word there from a small t to a capital T. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Approved.
On the same page, line 17, delete the phrase to official representatives to the council, and in lieu thereof, insert the phrase a president, a vice president, a treasurer, and a secretary.
Any objection? Hearing none. Approved.
On the same page and line, after the word necessary, insert the punctuation mark period.
Approved.
On the same page, line 18, after the word necessary, delete the following. The representative who gets the higher number of votes shall automatically become the conveyor of the federation, all the way until the words may be elected from another term for another term of 1 year, to be deleted, Mr. President. So on the same page, slide 18, we delete all of this.
The deletion is on line 18.
Begins on line 18, Mr. President.
Starting with the word
Yes.
Up to line 24 with
and
the period after year.
After year, that's right. And we add a period after year, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, so deleted.
On page 23, line 6, delete the phrase including representatives of the council. So
Any objection? Hearing none.
on the same page, line 23, delete the word and figure 24, and in lieu thereof, insert the word and figure 30. So moved, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none.
On page 24, line 9, delete the entire subsection D and reletter the succeeding subsections accordingly. So moved, Mr. President.
On line 9, delete the entire
subsection
section D.
The entire subsection D, Mr. President.
So that's on line 9 and
Starting
10.
lines 9 and 10.
And renumber the subsequent letters accordingly.
So moved, Mr. President.
Approved.
On the same page, line 19 to 25, delete subsection C. And in lieu thereof, insert the following. To read, subsection C, the duly elected president of the respective federasyon ng Sangguniang Kabataan shall serve as president of the council. Full stop. He or she shall also serve as ex officio member of the Sangguniang Bayan, Sangguniang Panlunsod, and Sangguniang Panlalawigan, respectively. So moved, Mr. President.
Can the chair have the amendment again, Senator Marcos?
On the same page, I missed it.
Page.
On the same page, page 20. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped the. I see why there's. I skipped one, and we are already on line. We are on page 31.
First, we are on page
31.
31.
Yes,
All right.
sir.
On page 31.
On
yes.
page 31, line 14, after the word council, delete the punctuation mark period, and in lieu thereof, insert the phrase, except its president as provided in the succeeding paragraph. So move, Mr. President.
All right. Any objection here and approved?
And on the same page, lines 19 to 25, delete subsection C, and in lieu thereof, insert the following, the duly, rather, to read now, subsection C, the duly elected president of the respective Federasyon ng Sangguniang Kabataan shall serve as president of the council, full stop. He or she shall also serve as ex officio member of the Sangguniang Bayan, comma, Sangguniang Panlunsod and Sangguniang Panlalawigan, comma, respectively, full stop. So move, Mr. President.
Just for clarity, the deletion starts on line
Line
19, on page 31 and continues up to line 1 and 2 of page 32. Is that correct?
That is right, Mr. President.
And in lieu thereof, the proposed amendment as the new section C, as read by the sponsor.
That is right. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection here and approved?
On page 32, lines 13 to 16, delete subsection G. So move, Mr. President.
Subsection G. Any objection?
Lines 13 to 16.
Any objection here and approved?
On the same page, line 21, delete the word and figure 24, and in lieu thereof, insert the word and figure 30. So move, Mr.
Any
President.
objection here and approved?
On page 33, line 2, after the word council, insert the phrase, except its president. So moved, Mr. President.
Any objection here and approved?
On the same page, line 3, delete the phrase, no chairperson of the council shall serve for more than 2 consecutive terms. So moved, Mr. President.
Any objection here and approved?
On page 34, line 13, after word council, insert the word president.
Any objection here and approved?
On the same page, line 17, delete the word including, and in lieu thereof, insert the word except.
Any objection here and approved?
On page 42, line 12, delete the phrase first Saturday of May 2015, and in lieu thereof, insert the phrase last Monday of October 2016. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection here and approved?
On the same page, line 15, delete the year May 2015, or rather delete the date to May 2015, and in lieu thereof, insert October 2016. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection here and approved?
On the same page, line 19, delete the year 2015, and in lieu thereof, insert the year 2016. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection here and approved?
On the same page, line 19, delete the following. The term of office of the youth sector representatives to the local Sangguniang, as provided for in this act, shall commence at noon of 30th of June 2015. The duly elected and qualified successor shall assume office at noon of June 30th every year thereafter. So moved, Mr. President.
Any objection here and approved?
Those are all the committee amendments.
Majority Leader?
Mr. President, I move that we close the period for committee amendments.
Any objection here and none? Period for committee amendments is terminated.
Mr. President, I was informed that some senators need time to ask to propose individual amendments, and they may ask some clarificatory questions during this period. So I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 2401 under Committee Report number 75.
Consideration of the measure is suspended. Before we take up the bill in next session, the Secretariat is directed to draft a new version of the bill containing the committee amendment. Yeah, Mr. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, may I ask for a minute suspension?
Suspension 1 minute. Majority Leader. Session is resumed.
Mr. President, I move that we take up additional reference of business.
The Secretary will read the additional reference of business.
Resolutions, PS Resolution number 1127, directing the proper Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation of the reported rampant smuggling of agricultural products in Zamboanga City and their disappearance from the custody of the Bureau of Customs by Senator Cynthia A. Villar.
Committee on Trade, Commerce, and Entrepreneurship, Agriculture, and Food.
PS Resolution number 1128, directing the Committee on Social Justice, Welfare, and Rural Development to inquire in aid of legislation on news reports that its street children were rounded up and brought by the Department of Social Welfare and Development to Chateau Royal Resort in Nasugbu, Batangas during the papal visit in the country by Senator Maria Lourdes Nances Binay.
Social Justice, Welfare, Rural Development.
PS Resolution number 1121, directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the pressing issues involving the domestic travel and the effectiveness and efficiency of the complaints and assistance mechanisms provided by air, land, and maritime carriers, the Civil Aeronautics Board, the Land Transportation, Franchising, and Regulatory Board, the Maritime Industry Authority, the Department of Trade and Industry, and the Department of Transportation and Communications in responding and resolving complaints relative to domestic travel by Senator Pimentel III.
Public Services.
PS Resolution number 1130, expressing the sense of the Senate to urge national agencies to work collaboratively with the local government of the City of Vigan for its continued preservation as a livable heritage city in light of its successful inclusion as one of new 7 wonder cities of the world. Senator Ligarda.
Rules.
Committee report number 97, submitted jointly by the Committees on Local Government and Electoral Reforms and People's Participation on House number 5209, introduced by Representative Del Rosario A.G. et al., entitled An Act Postponing the Sangguniang Kabataan Elections to the last Monday of October 2016, amending for the purpose of Republic Act number 9164 as amended, entitled An Act Providing for Synchronized Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan Elections, amending Republic Act number 7160 as amended, otherwise known as the Local Government Code of 1991, and for other purposes. Recommending its approval with amendment. Sponsors, Senators Marcos Jr. and Pimentel III.
To the calendar for ordinary business. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, may I move that we transfer House Bill number 5209 under Committee Report number 97 from the calendar for ordinary business to the calendar for special orders.
Any objection? Hearing none, so transferred.
With the consent of the Senate, I move that we consider House Bill number 5209 under Committee Report number 97.
Consideration of the measure is in order.
With the permission of the body, I move that the Secretary read only the title of the said measure.
The Secretary will read the title of the measure.
House number 5209, An Act Postponing the Sangguniang Kabataan Elections to the last Monday of October 2016, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 9167 as amended, entitled An Act Providing for Synchronized Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan Elections, amending Republic Act number 7160 as amended, otherwise known as the Local Government Code of 1991, and for other purposes.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we recognize Senator Marcos to sponsor the said measure.
Senator Marcos is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, today, as Chairman of the Committee on Local Government, I am here to sponsor Committee Report number 97, containing House Bill number 5209, or the proposed act postponing the SK elections to the last Monday of October 2016. Mr. President, last October the 3rd, 2013, Republic Act number 10632 was signed into law. It mandates specifically under Section 1 thereof that the Sangguniang Kabataan elections originally scheduled on 28 October 2013 shall be postponed to a date to be determined by the Commission on Elections between 28 October 2014 to 23 February 2015. It will be recalled, Mr. President, that when this representation sponsored this proposal through Senate Bill number 1186 and House Bill number 2849 last September of 2013, I emphasized the significant role of youth in community affairs, policy making, and public governance. However, I had underscored the view of the committee that before conducting the SK elections, the Sangguniang Kabataan must first be reformed and restructured in order to effectively represent the needs and concerns of the youth sector. It was then the unanimous opinion of this august chamber to postpone the October 28, 2013 SK elections in order to give Congress reasonable time to prepare the significant legislation that would institute meaningful, timely, and viable reforms in the Sangguniang Kabataan. Immediately after the passage of this law and promptly responding to this resounding call, the Senate, through your Committee on Local Government, deliberated on Senate Bills 68 and 1090. After conducting a series of hearings and technical working group meetings, the committee came up and issued Committee Report number 75 that contains the proposed Youth Development and Empowerment Act of 2014, which seeks to restructure the Sangguniang Kabataan and introduces substantial improvements. Your committee believes that this legislative initiative will address the misgivings and criticisms against the Sangguniang Kabataan, and its passage will establish, amongst others, a youth council system empowered by a much stronger, relevant, and principled youth leadership. Your Committee on Local Government was determined to comply with the timetable set forth under RA 10632 to hold SK elections under a reformed organization. Hence, focused efforts were made by your committee to make sure that the SK Reform Bill is drafted, reported out, and subsequently thoroughly deliberated upon by this chamber. However, despite these intense preparations, it is unfortunate that this legislative measure cannot be successfully completed within the mandated deadline. We have been informed likewise by the House of Representatives that the deliberations on its version of the SK Reform Bill have yet to finish at the committee level. The setback in the timely completion of the proposed SK Reform Act before the SK elections is not meant to undermine the valuable role of youth in nation building. As a matter of fact, earnest efforts are genuinely exerted in order to put in place the vital improvements in the youth organization through legislation, so that in the end, the next scheduled elections for SK officers will be under a more organized, upright, committed, and informed assembly of young leaders. Rest assured, Mr. President, that this representation is in close coordination with our counterparts in the House of Representatives. We have firmly committed to conclude all committee and plenary deliberations and to introduce appropriate amendments to the SK reform bills before Congress goes into the sine die adjournment this coming June. For the meantime, however, there is a crucial need to postpone the February SK elections in order to save the much-needed government funds in preparing for this electoral exercise. In view of the foregoing, your Committee on Local Government respectfully recommends that this body approve the proposal contained in House Bill 5209, postponing the Sangguniang Kabataan elections scheduled by the Commission on Elections on 21 February 2015 by virtue of COMELEC Resolution 9904 to the last Monday of October 2016. The youth of this country deserves our attention, Mr. President. Let us prepare a better future for them by laying a strong pillar of democratic, ethical, transparent, and accountable youth governance. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Marcos. Senator Cayetano, the Majority Leader, is recognized.
Mr. President, I move that we suspend consideration of House Bill number 5209 under Committee Report 97.
Any objection here and none? Approved.
Sir President, just a manifestation on the said matter. It was brought to my attention by some leaders, mayors of Bohol, Leyte, Samar, those areas affected by calamities, that the SK election under our law will have a construction ban. So they're asking that the Senate make representations with the COMELEC that their areas be exempted, especially if the SK postponement if the SK elections will not be postponed. So let me just put that on record, Mr. President. Personally, I'd like to write a letter to the COMELEC. Under the law, there is a construction ban, but under the law, the COMELEC can issue exemptions, and I think it is justified given that there are certain delays already in the process of rehabilitation. So their concern is that because of the release of funds recently, there are already public bidding scheduled in the next few weeks. So I just like to bring this matter up to the attention of the Senate and hopefully to the Commission on Election. Of course, if the elections is postponed, then there will be no construction ban. But in the meantime, it might hamper the process, Mr. President.
Duly noted, yes. The appropriate letter can be sent informing the COMELEC of the status of the bill postponing the election. And apart from this exemption from or exemption from the ban on public works, there are a lot of other events which are put on hold until the issue can be resolved. So I would suggest to the Majority Leader that the matter of the postponement be given top priority so that we can decide as a chamber what to do with this forthcoming election. And I would urge the Majority Leader to put it on the calendar again tomorrow.
Yes, Mr. President, the sponsor will be ready, and with the permission of the other members, we will be considering both measures, Mr. President, the postponement and also the reforms, and we are waiting for commitments also from the House of Representatives, which the Senate President is in the process of getting, that they will also be committed in not only postponing, but also in coming up with a law that will reform the SK and not abolish, Mr. President.
Yeah. We had a telephone conversation with Majority Leader last week, but we will reiterate this commitment that they have made to us.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, an administrative matter regarding the Sandigan Bayan Law. The Senate delegation to the bicameral conference on the disagreeing provisions of Senate Bill number 2138 and House Bill number 5283. The chairman will be Senator Pimentel, and members Senator Angara, and for the minority, Senator Soto. I ask that they be designated, Mr. President.
So designated.
Sir President, I move that we adjourn the session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Tuesday, January 27, 2015.
Session is adjourned until 3 o'clock Tuesday, January 27, 2015.